Fire Emblem Engage was released worldwide for Nintendo Switch on January 20th, marking the 14th mainline entry in the highly successful Fire Emblem franchise. With it being such a popular series, fans were especially curious to compare the English release with the version released in its home country of Japan, and it didn't take long before reports appeared of many alterations being made to the game's lengthy dialogue sequences. As is typical for RPGs, a big part of the game is its story and cast of characters. Furthermore, the series is known for its support system, which allows you to get to know the cast of characters better, with this often featuring romantic elements. The media has reported on one of the changes made to Engage outside of Japan, this being that any of the supports involving characters under the age of 18 has had any suggestion of romance replaced with something else. However, the English translation has in fact made many other alterations to the game. Important to note is that the game has been given a teen rating by North America's ESRB and comparable classifications in other Western regions, which means it isn't due to rating related reasons. The game's TV tropes page speaks about the changes, with it stating that various scenes have toned down or removed romantic and suggestive elements regardless of the ages of the characters, as well as content that could be seen as divisive. With how extremely text heavy the game is, a full comparison is unfortunately not possible for today's video. However, fun comparisons can be found across the web of a lot of affected scenes. This video will be reporting on some of the alterations that have been spotted by the Twitter users Mondblut and Zakogdo, who have also provided translations with their posts, and there will be links to their posts in the description alongside links to the YouTube channel Collector Togami for full videos of some of the English clips used in this video. The edits in question affect the 22-year-old Yunaka, the 19-year-old Goldmary, and the 22-year-old Louis. A support between Yunaka and Goldmary see the pair having a conversation while Goldmary is doing the laundry. Here's a clip from the English version of the scene.
It's a wonderful day for laundry. Wash, rinse, dry, starch, fold. Every step with precision and grace.
Look at you enjoying your chores. Is that even allowed?
I should hope so. I love laundry. Care to join me?
Me? I'll pass.
Are you sure? You might discover that washing clothes on a sunny day is refreshing and restorative. Keeping neat and clean won't exactly lose you any friends either.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Or maybe you've got something hidden among your unmentionables and don't want me to see.
What? Gross, no.
So, outside of Japan, Goldmary is a big fan of doing the laundry, and when Yunaka says she doesn't want to join her, Goldmary asks if Yunaka has something hidden among her unmentionables that she doesn't want to be seen. Over in Japan though, the scene is less about doing the laundry and more about being perceived as attractive. In Japan, instead of Goldmary saying, wash, rinse, dry, starch, fold, every step with precision and grace, she says, the men's eyes are glued to the way I perfectly do my chores. And instead of saying keeping neat and clean won't exactly lose you any friends either, the Japanese version says doing the housework with a smile on your face will also increase your likability. Furthermore, instead of it being something hidden among Yunaka's unmentionables, the Japanese version is more specific, as the line says, underwear that you don't want people to see. The character Louis had a big change made to his personality outside of Japan. But to first go into his personal skill, which gives a hint about his personality in the Japanese release. In the English version, his personal skill is admiration, which causes him to take 2 less damage if 2 female allies are adjacent within 2 spaces. In the Japanese version, the skill is called Hanazono no Monban, which means gatekeeper of the flower garden, with Hana translating to flower, Zono, garden, no meaning the English term off, and Monban meaning gatekeeper. And so the Japanese name gatekeeper of the flower garden is quite different from the English name admiration. However, the Japanese name, as well as the skill's worldwide ability to reduce damage if female allies are nearby, are a reference to his personality in the Japanese version of the game. Outside of Japan, Louis is portrayed as someone who is very fond of people watching. People watching is a term that is used by some to describe watching other people who are in public places, normally to try to interpret the backstories of strangers or for for inspiration. In Japan though, Louis is instead very interested in watching specifically females rather than people in general. However, even in Japan, this is something that's not really portrayed in a lecherous way. This interest of his is depicted as being strange, but not suggestive in nature, and it's depicted as him being eccentric and quirky. Here's a clip of a support between Louis and the main protagonist.
Louis? What are you doing there?
Oh, hello, Divine One. I wasn't doing anything of note, really. Merely observing those two over there chatting with one another.
Okay. And you're doing that... why?
That is the question, is it not? There are all sorts of philosophical implications to the simple act of asking why. To which I suppose I would respond, for edification.
So you watch people chat in order to learn things?
Precisely. There is deep meaning in these seemingly simple encounters. Through observation, many delightful and subtle details reveal themselves. When one treats them as one would treat a gallery piece, can there possibly be any harm?
I think maybe there can. What's right or wrong goes beyond rules and laws. There's courtesy and decency. If you knew they didn't like being watched, you'd stop, right?
But of course, Divine One. I would never elevate my appreciation above their own comfort.
Just so we're clear. Well then, I guess I'll leave you to it.
Very good, Divine One. I trust that I have eased any concerns you had.
And so Louis explains his fondness for watching people to the protagonist, and Louis makes it clear that he won't partake in this activity for anyone who it made uncomfortable. But as explained, in Japan, Louis instead talks specifically about females, and another difference is that he gets told to only do it in moderation. In Japan, the conversation goes, "Divine One, I'm not doing anything particularly special, I'm just quietly watching those girls chatting from over here. And why are you doing that?" Why? That's a difficult question. You could even say that it is a philosophical question. However, I suppose if I had to answer, I would say it's for my happiness. You're saying you like watching girls chatting. Yes, I love it, without approaching, without participating, and naturally, definitely without touching. Just quietly watching from a distance. Is that something I mustn't do? I think you probably shouldn't do that. Even if you're not breaking the law, if those girls are bothered by it, then stop right away, alright? Of course, Divine One, I don't want those girls to feel uncomfortable because of me, after all. I'm relieved to hear that. Well, only do this in moderation. As you say, Divine One, I apologize for causing you concern. There is a support in the Japanese version of the game though, that reveals Louis, in fact, doesn't only watch females, but also feminine-looking males. While looking like a female, the character Rosado is male, and here's a clip from a support between the two in the English version.
What's the matter, Louis? Can't take your eyes off me?
Indeed, Rosado. I find you positively enchanting.
Wait, really?
In every movement and speech, you are a fountain of energy. To my eye, it is sublime.
I was teasing, but I love your honesty. I thought you were mainly interested in seeing people socialize, though. Is it the same thing to watch me without anyone else around?
It's not so different. Some people display boundless reserves of energy even when alone. When you spot a puppy gambling in the road, is it a lesser sight for having no playmate?
No, of course not.
I rest my case.
So, in the English release, Rosado asks whether Louis is happy watching him despite him being alone and thus it only being one person. In Japan, however, Rosado says, "But you know, Louis, you like to watch cute girls from afar, right? But I'm a guy, are you okay with that?" To which Louis replies, "Yes, not a problem. Gender doesn't mean much in the face of absolute cuteness. You see an adorable puppy playing with you, and you care about its gender?" And now for another scene revolving around Goldberry and her appearance. Here's a clip from the English version and one of her supports with Fram.
Hey, Goldberry! How'd it turn out with the apples we gathered the other day?
Better than I could have possibly imagined. Unfortunately, they also ruined my life.
What? How?
I was so delighted eating the dish I made that my face bore a terribly inelegant expression.
I don't get it. Your face looks fine to me.
It's fine now, but there's nothing I can do about those who saw it. They'll remember forever.
I still don't think I see the problem, but okay.
How can can you not see? Whenever those people look at me, they'll see nothing but a silly face.
I really don't think they will, even if they noticed the, expression to begin with. You sound like you could use a break, though. Hey, how about taking a soak in a hot spring? That'd be nice and relaxing, right? Get you feeling back to your elegant self again?
No! I can't do that!
What? Why not?
What if someone who saw my silly face is there? What if they tell everyone? I'd never live it down.
I'm sure that won't happen, Gold Mary. Look, this isn't the end of the world, okay?
If everyone there knew how ridiculous I looked, I could never go to the hot springs again. But there's no way to know if anyone who saw me would be there until I went there. It's like wanting to go shopping for clothes without having an outfit to wear to the store.
Okay, I don't really get it, but I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Please don't cry.
Will you help me rehearse my demeanor until it's graceful and refined again?
Over in Japan, it isn't an inelegant expression that Gold Mary is distraught over. Instead, it is gaining weight. The Japanese version goes, "Gold Mary, did the apple dish the other day go well? Yes, it turned out better than I imagined, but if you could cook it well, why are you so down? Well, I ate too much and I gained a little weight. At first glance, it doesn't look like you've changed at all, right? I've got some meat on places you can't see at first glance. Yes, I see. With a body like this, everyone will hate me. I don't think people would hate you for that, but if it bothers you that much, how about going to a hot spring? You know, if you sweat a lot, I'm sure you'll get back to your original shape. Hot springs are definitely no good. Why? If I go to a hot spring, everyone will see my neglected body. Sob, sob. Are you crying? I love hot springs, but in this state, I can't go to a hot spring for the rest of my life. But I can't lose weight without bathing in a hot spring. If I were to compare this feeling, it's like having no clothes to go shopping for clothes. I don't really understand, Gold Mary, please don't cry. Then, sob, help me get back in shape. As mentioned, however, the script changes to the English version are vast, and have seen much of the romance-related content removed outside of Japan. Furthermore, a lot of the altered dialogue is not explicit to begin with. For example, a scene between the 17-year-old Fagado and the main protagonist involves Fagado saying, "Yeah, you, me, and some hard-hitting questions like who is your very best friend and why." In Japan though, he says, "I want to have a private conversation with the Divine One. Yeah, asking things like what kind of person is your type." And as seen in that comparison, many of the changes have replaced any type of reference to romance with talking about very best friends. It's important to point out though that there don't appear to be graphical alterations between the versions, and that the edits are throughout the text and voice acting. Censored Gaming may take another look at the game at some point in the future, but due to the large number of script changes, it's more challenging to do so with a video format. However, it's something that will of course be kept in consideration for not just now, but long term. What are your thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, thank you for watching.